It is the Week 3 Columbia Football Coaches Show. Hello, everyone. I'm Lance Medow here on GoColumbiaLions.com as Columbia coming off a victory over Georgetown and now gets ready for its Ivy League opener against the Princeton Tigers. And as always, we are joined by head coach Jon Poppe. Jon, always a pleasure having you here to sit down. I want to start recapping the 19-10 victory over the Hoyas. You reclaimed the Lou Little Cup trophy, and the defense, to me, was the big storyline. Georgetown had 11 possessions. You had 3 takeaways as well as 3 turnovers on downs. How critical was the defensive unit in terms of situational football and helping set the tone for that victory?
Yeah, they played at elite level on Saturday. They did. And some of that, benefited us in terms of Georgetown's personnel being a little bit down. But we still have to go out there and execute, and that's what they did. I thought our D-line did a great job of impacting the run game in terms of creating new line of scrimmage, just creating distortion, creating problems for their offensive line combinations or inside zone combinations, and their linebackers did a great job just playing physical and tackling very, very well. And then opportunistic, right? I think Schmo had 2 and Chuck had 1 off the tip, which was by Josh Powell. So very active day for the defense, and they played at elite level, and was extremely proud of their efforts.
A week ago, we had talked about turning points in the Lafayette game, and unfortunately the interception. I think there was a turning point for your defense last week. It was 1st and goal from the 2. Georgetown has 4 plays. It's a 1-possession game. All of a sudden, things are looking different, and you stop them, you hold them to no points, and Carter McRae breaks up the pass to Kibble, their top wide receiver. What was your take in terms of how good your defense was execution-wise in that situation with their backs against the wall?
Yeah, just across the board. Again, execution, right? In terms of guys playing man coverage, playing sticky coverage, and the pressure's working. Our run pressure's working to stop them on their 2 run plays and then the 2 pass plays. That's where it's on the DBs, and having great eyes and being disciplined. And obviously on all 4 downs, we executed as flawlessly as you can, so to speak.
I want to continue to highlight the defensive plays because Keller Patterson, who seemed to be all over the field, he was involved in one of the critical turnover on downs where he runs all the way from the line of scrimmage to the outside, trips up Des Thomas, their quarterback. They turn over on downs late. How much do you show a play like that, Jon, to the rest of the team in terms of that's the level of hustle that you want to see out of your group?
Yeah, we always talk about as a team as, especially with this 2025 version of the Lions, unconditional sacrifice. And so that clearly, right, is a 4th quarter nose tackle, right, running from literally almost sideline to sideline. That just kind of unconditional effort and sacrifice to just do whatever it takes to win a game. I mean, that's the definition of it. And then there's an offensive play we highlight as well, and usually special teams we can find. So all 3 phases, we're trying to show what it is, how we're trying to identify ourselves as a team, and where it shows up in the game.
So your defense holds them to 3 of 14 on 3rd down, just 67 passing yards. Let's move to the offensive side of the ball. You were able to jump out to a double-digit lead, only 3 points in the second half. Jon, how much was perhaps the offensive performance a bit of a tale of 2 halves in your estimation from last week?
Yeah, it was great at the end of the first half, right? We converted 2 4th downs to get that field goal. I thought that was important to keep taking risks, if you calculated risks, and to go for it on 4th downs in those 2 situations. And offense proves right. Lucas Bullock with the huge run after catch for 25 yards to put us in field goal, and then Chase executing great situational awareness by not extending the play, throwing it away, and giving us a chance to kick the field goal and get to that double-digit lead in the second half. It just comes down to some execution things. Michael Walters had a little bit of an injury, in the second half, and he wasn't able to play, where I thought he was a big spark for us against Lafayette, and I think he'll continue to do that this year when he's healthy. And then it's just, again, consistent execution. Chase has to be a little bit better here or there. All line has to be a little bit better here or there. Tight end. So it's a collective group, in terms of our missing piece, our missing formula. And that's where we hope this week we finally figured that out and can hit the ground running.
Unfortunately, Chase got hit in the 4th quarter, so you brought in Caleb Sanchez. You've played 4 quarterbacks so far this year, not to give away state secrets here on this program. But in all seriousness, Jon, how much does that prepare you depth-wise in the event that Chase can't go, or however the depth chart does play out this week?
Yeah, similar to Cole Freeman a year ago,
Yep.
right, where he got some snaps, even in every single game, and then started some games for us. Similar to this year, Caleb got a chance to get in there and run around, and that was awesome. And then Xander Menepace and Xander Escherman, our true freshman quarterback, got a chance to play. So all of that is good just because of the experience of playing football versus somebody else, seeing different colors, different pictures, right, and the speed of it. So if God forbid, we need other quarterbacks to play for us, we feel like at least they're varsity ready because they've seen it, they've been in that moment, they know what it feels like, and it's not a hurried, I haven't done this since high school kind of feeling.
One thing that caught my eye throughout the course of the game. I know it did because we saw your emotions on the sideline. 20 combined penalties between both teams. You had 10, Georgetown had 10. What's the coaching point of emphasis this week, especially when a game like that you're coming off, there's interruption. The penalties were spread out across the board, John, in terms of the breakdown. 3 on special teams and offense, 4 on defense. But how do you use that as a teachable moment? Because you don't know when another game may be, I guess, officiated under similar circumstances.
Yeah, some of those are penalties you can live with, right? Carter McRae in the end zone, like that can happen.
Sure.
A little bit of defensive holding, right? Even offensive linemen sometimes can hold. It's the penalties where we as coaches can be better, right? The roughing the punter. We shouldn't be putting our players in certain positions. That's a 16-3 ball game. You know, Georgetown's offense, we're doing a great job. It's time for to get our offense. So that's where some of that, you know, stagnant play, so to speak, could exist because we lost a possession on offense by extending that drive. And that's where we got to be better. So I think across the board for us, you know, I wish some of those flags weren't thrown, so to speak, but for us, it's really just cleaning up situational football and making sure we're putting our guys in the best possible position as coaches to make sure certain flags don't show up in the game.
Well, there wasn't a flag thrown when Hutch Crow caught his second touchdown in as many weeks. And we'll step aside here, John, as this program presented by Amity Hall Uptown. It's the Week 3 Columbia Football Coaches Show. Our very own Victoria Newsom had an opportunity to sit down with one of the new sensations in the receiving corps. We'll learn more about him, and when we come back, we'll look ahead to the matchup with the Tigers in the Ivy League opener.
Amity Hall Uptown is the premier sports destination on the Upper West Side and the official home to Columbia University Athletics. Located just 951 steps from campus, Amity Hall is and will always be your home away from home.
Thank you, Lance. I'm here with Hutch Crow, a wide receiver for the Columbia Lions. Thank you so much for joining us. What has been contributing on the field or off the field to your success so far this season?
Really taking care of myself, taking care of my body in the training room. We're fortunate enough to have great trainers that are always in there, willing to help us. So just taking care of myself is good.
What does it feel like right now to be back?
Feels great. You know, knocking some rust off in the first couple games is good. So just being back out there and getting in the flow of things. Hopefully this week, be back in it full on. Will feel good.
And you're getting ready to face Princeton. What are some areas you want to improve on in your second year?
I've always been known as like a technique guy, good route runner. I want to, you know, kind of work on my speed, be a burner, be a deep threat. So I'd like to develop that a little bit and also be a good blocker, you know. Getting our running backs in the end zone is good. So if I can knock some guys on the turf and spring some big blocks, that'd be fun.
What excites you about this team right now and gelling together and working on that dynamic?
I think our coaches bring it first with the energy. You know, we're all excited to be here. No one's really complacent with where they are. Everyone wants to work and get better. So just energy in general.
Thank you so much, and make sure to catch the game.
Amity Hall Uptown is the premier sports destination on the Upper West Side and the official home to Columbia University Athletics. Located just 951 steps from campus, Amity Hall is and will always be your home away from home.
Welcome back to the Week 3 Columbia Football Coaches Show. I'm Lance Medow as we now get set for the matchup against the Princeton Tigers, the Ivy League opener. And John, this is a Princeton team that has put up plenty of points. They're averaging nearly 37 a game. Interestingly, they jumped out to an early lead against San Diego. Then San Diego scores 28 unanswered points, and then they beat a team you're familiar with, Lafayette, by 10 last week. So after breaking down the film, looking at their 2 performances, what's your major takeaway of this Tigers team?
They start fast. You know, 63 of the 80 points are in the first half, right? 21 of those points are off of 3 turnovers. And I think for us, you know, as we watch it, we can't turn the ball over, right? Their linebackers specifically do a great job punching the ball out, and then their offense hasn't really turned it over, right? I mean, there's a fumble there late in the San Diego game, but these quarterbacks aren't throwing interceptions, right? They're being smart, they're being calculated with their throws, they're doing a great job running the football. So from our standpoint, we got to find a way to take this ball away from this offense and keep them off the field as much as possible.
Well, earlier we talked about your capacity to put 4 different quarterbacks on the field. Princeton has played 2. Blaine Hippett you saw last season in the game here in New York City, and then now Kai Colon is one of the new faces, even though he had been on the roster for a few years. What's the dynamics in play in terms of what those 2 present during the normal game flow?
You know, it's interesting. They're same playbook, at least as far as I see. And then Blaine Hippett maybe has some of that option stuff available to him that they showed last year versus us too. He has a little bit more dynamic run style. And talking about Blaine Hippett and Kai Colon, but he still does a great job in the pocket. His awareness in the pocket is, I think, elite, and you can see it in terms of his ability to step up in the pocket and scramble for, I think, 20-plus yards versus San Diego. He had a great run there in the first half. So I think for our standpoint, we've got to be sound in our rush lanes and treat them the same and just try to collapse that pocket as much as possible and get these quarterbacks to make difficult throws on the run.
9 touchdowns, 7 have come on the ground, and they've used the run game very effectively, it seems, in the red zone, right? 7 touchdowns and 8 opportunities. Given the fact that you've been tested by both Lafayette and Georgetown, what do you make of your run defense, and how much is this now the latest test in that department?
I mean, that's the key. The line of scrimmage, I think, on both sides is really the key to this game. And Ethan Clark has done a great job as a back. We've seen a lot of him over the years. Darian Murphy, another one, number 5. He adds a little different element in terms of his long speed, in my opinion. And then you got this new face, Kai Honda, who showed his explosiveness versus Lafayette. I mean, he hits that hole in a different gear. And so I think for us, we've got to be really, really great at preserving our gap integrity, right? Not making the easy or taking the easy way out as a defensive lineman, switching gaps on our linebackers. We really got to make sure we are 100% sound in our gaps and setting great edges to our defense to hopefully condense this running back and then wrap up extremely well.
John, it's interesting. All the names you mentioned, they were pretty much on the roster last year, just lower on the depth chart because a guy like John Volker was still there. So how much does that familiarity maybe help, considering they were sprinkled in, some of these running backs as well as the quarterbacks in previous matchups?
We know who they are, and they know who we are. It still doesn't change the fact that we got to go against them in live speed, and I wouldn't say we're accustomed to that yet, right? I think that's how first kickoff, first run play, first pass play, you start getting accustomed to the speed of the game and who these guys really are and who we really are, and that's where we just got to show up and start fast and minimize what Princeton has shown to do in these first 2 games, specifically on offense. Now,
your linebacking core is key when it comes to stopping the run. They're also great at taking away the football, apparently, based on what we saw last week. Unfortunately, Charlie Noonan was called for targeting, so that means you're going to be without him for the first half. How does that change your game plan, and who are you looking to step up specifically in the middle of that unit?
Yeah, Andrew Burmeister, we thought played admirably for a first year, considering all the reps that he hadn't taken in preseason due to some of the senior leadership at that position. So we expect him to execute our defense. He's shown the ability to handle the information and digest our playbook. And now, like I said, it's on the front guys to make sure that they're creating the clarity and the gap fit. And so now Andrew can play fast and let loose and do what linebackers do.
John, before I let you go, I mean, sometimes we make too much of it's the Ivy League opener, even though you already have 2 games under your belt. But this is the marathon now to try to duplicate what you accomplished last season in getting a piece of that Ivy League crown. So what are you sending message-wise to your team as you're now starting this year, unlike last year, on the road against an Ivy League foe, also on a quick turnaround of Friday night?
Yeah, in terms of our approach, it's the next opponent. Right? Obviously, the Ivy League game, the Ivy League opener is a part of that address. But really, we have to be so focused on us right now because we haven't played great football. We haven't played to our full potential, and that's why the focus solely has to be on us and making sure we understand and know Princeton's tendencies better than they know ours, so we can execute in the fourth quarter at a higher level, right? Hopefully we are game conditioned in terms of our fighting, especially at the line of scrimmage, right? In terms of how these games have played out, and that's what I'm really excited to see is our whole team take a step forward versus Princeton. It's going to be a challenge, knowing what they've done on both sides and led by a tremendous linebacker core. Princeton is with Marco Scorano as the lead guy. I mean, he's played a tremendous amount of football. So in my mind, we've got to be able to control those linebackers and stop letting them run side to side and punching ball carriers out. But for us, let's just go out there and play football and execute to the highest level we can.
Sounds like a game plan. John, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks.
Best of luck this week.
Appreciate
You got it, absolutely. So it's Columbia against Princeton. They'll kick off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can watch the game on ESPNU. And our title sponsor, Amity Hall Uptown, will be hosting a live watch party. So you're in the New York City area, you can stop by with fellow Columbia fans and take in the game as well. As this has been the Week 3 edition of the Columbia Football Coaches Show.